This is a special edition of Late Night Health. I'm Mark Alyn. We're going to take a look at dental care. We're going to take a look at smiling. We're going to take a look at straight teeth. And we're going to visit with somebody I think is going to be our new friend, and that's Dr. John Nakhla. He is a dentist up in the San Francisco Bay Area. We'll have information underneath us during the interview. So if you have questions for him, you can always ask him. Okay, that's a very simple thing to do. Dr. John, welcome to Late Night Health.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about a couple of things. You know, we're just really months out of the COVID pandemic. Did people forget to go to the dentist or refuse to go to the dentist because of COVID during that time?
Probably a little bit of both. I can say, statistically speaking, yes, there was a significant drop off in patient attendance for their routine care visits, as well as their attention to most treatment that was not associated with pain. So if you went back and looked at most of the numbers, you'd find everything we did that was before the nerve was involved, before a patient started to really notice symptoms, dropped off significantly. And an unfortunate byproduct was that the procedures that happened after a nerve was involved skyrocketed.
After the pandemic, after
During the
everything opened
pandemic,
up.
because the only time, the point at which they felt compelled to call to follow up on their concern was, often once it was bordering on too late, where the damage is fairly extensive, the nerve is involved, there's swelling. So extractions, root canals, those kinds of procedures, you found the statistically actually went up during 2020, the second half of 2020, and certainly the first half of 21. Whereas the simple fillings, the cleanings, for sure, a lot of that fell off precipitously during that time.
You're a surgeon. You are an oral surgeon?
So I am a general dentist, but I do perform a number of oral surgery procedures. In dentistry, unlike medicine, there is that opportunity for the general practitioner to participate in all facets of dentistry, so long as they have the training, the experience, and the background to support it, to bring that within their scope of practice.
And you certainly do. Why did you become a dentist?
If I'm being honest, initially it had a lot to do with it was in the family line of careers. My mother was a dentist. My is a dentist, I should say. My father was a physician, and so healthcare was always in the forefront of my mind as something to consider. But at one point, I thought I was going to be an attorney, and at another point, I thought I was going to be a computer programmer. What landed me in dentistry eventually was spending a couple of summers during high school working in my mom's office. And I was there to perform IT tasks because at the time I was convinced tech was where I was headed. And what drew me was, I believe I came in one of the summers and I found she had a board of greeting cards that she had been receiving, I think over the previous few months. There were some Christmas cards left over, and then when her birthday came around, she had these cards from patients, and how much they meant to her, but also how much she meant to them in reading those cards. These were authentic, deep, years-long relationships that she had built with people. And I think at my core, I love people. And I think seeing those meaningful relationships and that ability for her to provide genuine care and build that line of trust with folks was intoxicating to me. It was really, really something that I was just drawn towards. And then I knew my love for technology there's no shortage of technology in dentistry. So there was an opportunity for me to exercise that, but still be able to provide that care and build those bonds. And so I think it's really the relationships.
And your technology goes to iPads, iPhones, and really terrific earbuds, because I can see them now. Right? Mine are hidden. Mine are here. You mentioned your love of people, and
Yeah.
prior to talking, we talked about the fact that dentistry, I mean, I guess your term was uh, drill, fill, and bill, which was, that's a 50-year-old kind of or more concept for dentists. You guys do so much more and overall help general health in people.
Well, I mean, if you look back historically, often the professionals that were performing dental procedures 100 years ago were barbers
Right.
and various other professions where dentistry was almost this auxiliary treatment that you were providing alongside other services. And maybe I should even use the term service you were providing alongside other services. Um, in the last 40 years, there's it would be an understatement to say that we have learned a lot about where the oral cavity falls within the larger context of the body. And in that same vein, if you go back to the 70s, 80s, we were still at that point fairly focused on a patient comes to us once a problem has already come to a head. Something's broken, um, something is hurting, something's swollen. And so it's restorative dentistry. Something has failed and we are restoring. Well, as we learn more about the biomechanics behind how things fell apart and what the natural deterioration track looks like, we were able to find ways to intervene upstream. And the first things the first iterations of that you see are even the notion of the 6 month hygiene visit, routine care visit in the practice. That didn't exist decades ago. That is and I actually I think we may be able to ascribe that to certain toothpaste brands that may have played a role in that process or organized dentistry. But we've been able to educate the population en masse at what kind of a resting standard would be for maintenance. And so we went from restorative to maintenance to preventative to now trying to help people even overcome genetic or biological predispositions to decay and using the mouth as, or recognizing, appreciating the mouth as a gateway to many other facets of health, heart disease, even when you talk about, certain diseases that can be diagnosed through the smell of someone's breath, right? I mean,
Diabetes.
there you go. And so there's a lot to be said for, it was almost, you could argue it was foolish of us at any point to not respect the fact that the input for your whole body probably is a big important part of your body, right? I mean, everything enters through here. So we've come a long way, and accordingly, we've been able to find ways, like I said, to participate in healthcare upstream. How do we help people get in front of their cardiologist, before they're in the emergency room? And how do we help patients avoid being in my chair and doing that restorative stuff that often means we were maybe late in our holistic treatment of the patient. So
I like that word
yeah.
holistic, doctor. That's a
Oh well.
that's a very important word, holistic, because it's a treatment of the entire body. You used the word biomechanics, and that's really the emphasis, I think, of what we're going to be talking about. I remember going to Dr. Weber in the San Fernando Valley. I won't give the exact years, and he was an orthodontist. And I'd go in every other couple of weeks, and he'd tighten my wires. He'd give me extra rubber bands for my headgear, and of course, I came out, I don't know, 2, 3 years later with a beautiful smile, as you can see. However, over the years, smiles, the mouth moves, and
Mhm.
maybe people need an alignment, if you will,
Mhm.
somewhat like a chiropractor, aligning the spine. Now there are easy ways of aligning the teeth. So before we talk about that, if I have a smile where the teeth are straight, is that healthier than having a bunch of crooked teeth?
Oh well, yes. markedly so. And of course, our first thought often goes to the aesthetics of it. Straight teeth look better, of
Right.
course, and that is pleasing to the eye. But when I'm looking at a patient, I have always ascribed to the idea that I am not here to impart my aesthetics on my patients. I am here to talk to them about their health and their biology. And I know that when you have particularly crowding of teeth, and that's very common. The lower front teeth, you'll find this in a very high percentage of the population. That the health of the bone between the teeth and under the teeth, the support structure that holds those teeth in place, is markedly diminished. That the ability for food debris, for ion deposits coming out of your saliva to accumulate along the edges of the teeth under the gum line goes up exponentially. And that as a result, there are a number of studies showing that the accumulation of the calculus deposits, or those calcified deposits under the gum line, can actually make their way into the bloodstream by way of the pockets between your teeth and the gums. And entering the bloodstream, there have been instances reported of stroke and heart attack and other cardiovascular occlusions or issues because of a deposit between your teeth.
Excuse me,
And
I'm rushing to my dentist right now. That's right. Uh,
that or
So
the
the
emergency room, whichever you prefer.
right, exactly. I'd rather go to the dentist. And people don't really like going to the dentist.
No.
They're the for kids. I see kids with braces even today. They have when I was a kid, there were no colored bands, there were no colored
Yeah.
wires or things. However, today there are all kinds of things, and we're going to talk about a new product called Smile Simple, simple aligners, and we have a website up. So if you're interested in getting straight teeth, we'll find out more about that. Dr. Nakhla, uh, there are ads right now running all the time. Get your
Mm.
teeth straight, get your teeth straight. And they don't talk about the health aspect. They only talk about, as far as I can remember, at least on the ads, they only talk about the aesthetic, have a pretty smile with straight teeth. Of course, then they want to sell you whitening, but that's another story. Um, uh, are 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 those kinds of things? Uh, do they work? Do they work? And can kids not have to have braces? And older people who have had braces in the past, uh, are these simple aligners a good idea?
Well, clear aligner therapy in general has come a long way over the last 25, 30 years. I would argue that, and I think the statistics would show that, if you were looking at early clear aligner therapy interventions that were available 25, 30 years ago, a very small use case existed, meaning certain kinds of dental issues or certain kinds of mispositions of teeth, you simply couldn't move with the plastic yet. A clear aligner essentially is a series of clear plastic aligners that would engulf or cover the whole tooth, really all the teeth, rather, in an arch. Usually both arches. You wear a set on the bottom and a set on the top, and you'd have a series of them. So that the first one you put on, if you were to take it out and look at it, it would look nearly identical to the position that your teeth are currently in, with minor variations. And when you put that on, the teeth have a little bit of force exerted on them to help move them towards those variations. And then every couple of weeks, you'd swap them out for the next one with another little change to the position of the number of teeth, and gradually be moving the teeth along. Well, over these last 25 to 30 years, we realized, well, if the plastic, and I use the term plastic here somewhat generically and to simplify the matter, but if that material
Right.
is engineered just so it's just so stiff, but just so elastic, and if maybe we go onto a few of the teeth and we just glue on a little bit of filling material on the outside of the tooth, so that when the plastic wraps around the tooth, it can engage that little bump of filling material and use that as a handle of sorts to take the tooth and contort it or twist it in whatever direction was appropriate for the treatment. Well, now we can do things with this plastic that we used to have to put the metal on for. And I mean, you mentioned earlier, I believe that I don't recall if it was before we began the recording or after that, you spent time in headgear, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah.
How comfortable was that?
Oh, it was not comfortable. As a kid, I hated going to the orthodontist. I liked the guy. I saw him 20
Didn't you?
years later, you
Yeah.
know, and the first thing he did was he recognized me and came over and grabbed my face and said, "Yeah, I did a great job." Um,
How was it sleeping wearing the headgear?
yeah, oh, it was terrible.
It was
Wearing the
miserable.
headgear after the braces and it was painful. Um,
So with that in mind, dentistry knew the dentist professionals. We all understood that if we can make these simple, clear aligners that go into the mouth that are invisible and are comfortable and are removable, if we can make these an effective tool for a larger and larger percentage of the malocclusion or the crooked teeth cases that we run into, then we'll be doing the whole population a great service. And so we're at a point now, and you mentioned, I believe, simple aligners a little bit earlier, where the material science of that plastic and the engineering of where we put those handles on the teeth, how we create the most effective route for those steps of those multiple aligners you wear to get the teeth from crooked today to perfectly straight in 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 months. We've
that's
just
all
gotten a
it
lot better
takes.
at that. Oh yes, I have many cases right now that and to compare this 20 years ago, there might have been a case where a metal brackets and wires that like the ones you had could have treated a case in 4 months. But well, if you want to go the pretty route with the plastic, you could do that, but it'll take 9. Well, now that's flipped on its head. Now it's flipped on its head where the fact that we're wrapping around the whole tooth and the fact that we're installing these little attachments and that this is computer guided. I mean, this is computer aided design, and we're using AI to help solve for that route of a movement of the teeth and the ideal
Amazing.
positions. We've come to a point now where I'm able to treat patients now in 3, 4 months for things that bracket and wire might have taken 6 to 9 months before.
And I wore braces for at least 2 years.
Oh, that's very rare for me. At this point, my clear aligner cases, I find vast majority of my cases are complete within about 13 to 14 months.
That is amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
is there pain? I mean, with the movement, or is it minimal?
You ask a great question. Anytime you move a tooth, you're going to notice initially some soreness. Now, one of the things that clear aligners had to overcome, if you remember with your brackets and wires, you put those brackets in each one of the teeth, and we take a single wire and we run it along those brackets. And before the wire went in, the doctor might put a couple twist and bend the wire. And what those bends would do was once the wire was installed, the torque on the wire would help to take the tooth and nudge it in a direction. So you'd have a consistent, gradual torque on those teeth, moving them along the route. Well, when we first started using clear aligners, again, easy to put in the mouth, removable, invisible, but each aligner you put on, it was very stepwise. So you put on a new aligner and you notice for the first 48 hours of a 2-week wear. So in those first 2 days, you'd go, man, my teeth are sore. They were sore because we were telling those teeth to move for the 2 weeks worth of movement in 2 days. And then we actually would spend the subsequent 12 days saying, okay, now hold your position so that the bone around the roots of the teeth can recover from that drastic movement we just executed on those teeth. And even till today, most aligner companies and aligner manufacturers are using plastics and are using the engineering and the methods for movement of teeth are still using that stepwise approach. What drew me to simple aligners specifically was the fact that they're using one of the newest plastics on the market that has excellent elasticity but also excellent elastic memory. And what that means is, so today I'm putting in an aligner, and as I explained in the beginning, when you put on that aligner, it has some variations on it from where the teeth currently set. That's why the teeth will move. However, when you place that aligner in your mouth now, the aligner will actually give back to where you are currently, but is maintaining memory and applying gradual force to bring the teeth ultimately by the end of the 2 weeks to where the aligner was when we first handed the aligner to the patient.
So
And that was,
is
sorry,
this like muscle memory in golf? You're a dentist, so you must play golf.
I'm not very good at it. I'm really good at swinging at grass and dirt,
Got it.
but yes, I do play from time to time. And yes, it is very similar to muscle memory when you're referring to the elastic memory of the plastic. Yes, and that was not easy to find because early on, the earlier iterations of those plastic materials, you either went with something very rigid, which meant you were going to apply very abrupt force on the teeth at each step. And it also meant that the amount of movement you could achieve per step was smaller because you were going to expect it to happen rather quickly. And then you'd have to spend time recovering from that movement and then do the next step. Or the material was so flimsy that sure, it didn't create a lot of movement initially, but it never created a lot of movement. You put it in the mouth, it bent back to where your teeth currently rest, and your teeth never had enough force to actually go where you want it to go. So with simple aligners and the material that they're using now, it has found an amazing balance that, frankly, when I first heard about it, I thought was too good to be true, and I was reluctant. And I said, well, let me find a patient that it was someone who worked with me. And I said, let's try it out on them. They understand that they're a guinea pig of sorts for me in my practice because the claims just didn't hold up. Sure enough, I had submitted her case to Simple, got their design, and I submitted her case to one of the other major players in the space, probably the first name that comes to most people's minds. And I compared and contrasted the two plans. One plan told me, John, it will take 16 steps to get the patient from where they are today to where they want to be. Those 16 steps, each step takes about 2 weeks. So we're talking about 32 weeks for treatment, or approximately 7.5 months. With Simple, they told me in 11 steps. That's a big difference. And then I started to look at the numbers for each step. The movements were, you were traversing a larger distance in each one of those 2 week steps. Okay, so you guys think you can move faster? And when they explained to me the science of it, they said, put this in your patient's mouth. They will not complain of discomfort. And I've had patients tell me, man, it's sore as heck. I dread that first day putting in my aligner. Sure enough, she had no concerns, no complaints. And I didn't want to prime her to expect that. But I'd ask her, how are you feeling? How are you doing? She said, it's been great. Any soreness? No, not really. Nothing.
So we have,
And
we're running out of time. So I've got a couple of major things that we need to talk about. One,
go for it.
What sets my understanding that sets SmileSimple.com apart is the fact that you're always under the care of a dentist.
Yes, well, Smile Simple, their goal was to reach out directly to the patients. There are other companies that are reaching directly out to patients and letting them know that there was an affordable solution that was US made and had quick turnaround and was doctor supervised, which was a rarity in the direct to patient or direct to consumer clear aligner market. Most of them, they send you trays, you take molds, you send it back to them, they send you your stuff, you do it at home. That also meant that there's only very few simple cases, much like the cases that clear aligners could do 25 to 30 years ago, that the aligner company could actually provide. But by Simple actually bringing a dentist back into the fold, it allowed them to provide the patient better managed care and also allowed them to treat the full gamut of malocclusions or crowded, crooked, mispositioned teeth, as opposed to other direct-to-consumer models that could only treat the simplest cases.
And at the end of the treatment, so Mark goes in and has it, and I'm assuming this will work for young people as well as older people, people 50 plus.
Oh, absolutely. A large percentage of actually a higher percentage of patients that you find doing this are adults than what you would find with bracket and wire. Bracket and wire, one of the perks there is that a kid can't take it off. So if you're working on a 7, 8 year old child, there may be something to be said for something fixed in the mouth. But for everyone else, if they can be trusted to wear it and keep it in, it's we have a very large percentage of our care is provided to adults.
Got it. Uh,
Yeah.
and what about price? Uh, uh, One of the things that I noticed on the website, on the
Mm.
simplesmile.com website, is that it's affordable. Is that more affordable than other aligners?
Well, the CEO and the founders of the company, that was, I think, their mission. They had a number of folks that were part of the genesis of this company had decades of experience in orthodontics and were there from the onset of clear aligners all the way up until the last few years when they ventured off to work on this project. And their goal was to make clear aligner therapy accessible to the masses. And they knew that pricing played a big role in that. And so a lot of their effort was, let's find a material that allowed us to provide treatment to patients that required minimal intervention and would only need prudent oversight by a local doctor and could be achieved efficiently, quickly, and cost effectively for the patient. And so accordingly, they've been able to drive prices down to, in most cases, less than half of what local dentists would charge.
That is amazing. And last thought was
Mm.
that after I had my braces removed, and that's when the doctor, kind of put his foot on my chest and would pull off those little metal things.
Mm.
Um, uh, do you need some kind of retainer that you wear maybe at night, or is it done?
Anytime you move your teeth, actually, I take that back. Anytime you don't want your teeth to move on their own, you need a retainer. You could be born with a naturally straight set of teeth. I've seen patients that walk in that ask, "Oh, have you had ortho?" No, that's just how I was born. And it's remarkable. But having said that, even as we age, the collapse of the arch, if you were to look at the shape of your teeth, take those teeth out of your mouth, they form an arch. The collapse of the arch, the shrinking and collapse of those teeth towards one another is a natural phenomenon that occurs in a vast majority of humanity with time. And so even if you got straight teeth, you get into your 50s, 60s, 70s, you're going to notice, oh, they have begun to collapse. I have crowding now. And so anytime you want to prevent that from taking place, you're going to have to wear a retainer. Clear aligners, brackets, and wires. Retainers are a prudent approach if you'd like to ensure the work you put in to having the teeth the way they are.
Listen, I thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Nakhla, and look forward to another conversation.
I'd
Um,
love it.
and I have to say, from a personal standpoint, you meet somebody and they have misaligned teeth. They haven't taken care of them. They're super yellowed.
Yeah.
They're aged. It makes somebody look 30 years older than they
Yeah.
are. It's
Yeah.
terrible. And it's easy and inexpensive to take care of that. And as Dr. Nakhla has said, having straight teeth is healthier because of the bone structure and all that. Listen, I look forward to our next conversation. Hold on. I'm Mark Alyn. Thank you for watching. If you want information on Dr. Nakhla, the website and is up underneath us and has been throughout our conversation. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back very soon. Bye bye for now.